And now we gotta throw up the little thingy. Here it goes.
It's a Bitcoin podcast. The only one that's making your money is you. Listen to the Bitcoin podcast. So hold on and listen to the Bitcoin podcast.
Hey,
How are we ever going to get something as smooth like that for hashing it out? And that's the question.
No,
we could just
it's not possible.
We could dub our voices over it, and then auto tune.
When you're listening to the hashing it out,
Yeah, and then there's just a terrible dub too. Hashing it out, like it's just like that's how it sounds. Oh man, welcome back everybody who's coming back. Welcome to everybody who's new. We hope you enjoy this conversation in and around crypto. I'm the host of Talks First D.
I am another host, Corey Petty.
And I'm the third host, Jesse Broke.
That's right. And we are crypto's VR troopers.
The triumvirate.
Yes, the Beetleborgs.
That's a word I haven't heard in a while.
The triumvirate?
Yeah.
Me
It's
either.
a good word.
Yeah.
Me either. So today we wanted to talk to you guys about something. We actually wanted to talk to you about your Lord and Savior Jesus. No, I'm kidding. We don't. But we are talking about soul-bound tokens. Soul Vitalital, you know, he doesn't talk often, but when he does, you listen. That's a good thing about people who don't talk often. He said he's very excited about the future of crypto and Ethereum. Ethereum if you're weird. Ethereum if you're normal. Ethereum if you're trying to be weird as well. He said because the soul-bound tokens. The idea of I want to put my D spin on a soul-bound token, and I'm gonna let Corey tell me I'm wrong, and Jesse laugh at that how wrong I am. But in my opinion, a soul-bound token is a token that is issued to your wallet, that private key, and it cannot move from that private key. It's stuck there in that wallet. It's not moving. Even if you can't sign it out, you can't push it out. It's gone. The only way to move it is never. That token is bound to that private key. All right, that's my explanation. I'll let you guys hop on in.
That's pretty much it.
It's pretty spot on.
It is a token that you can't move. So here's the EIP 4973 count-bound tokens.
Soul-bound.
Blow it up a little bit for those who are watching this. Let's see. Yeah, consider name change to account-bound tokens. Check. There's a couple other things that need to happen before this to go through. These are the checks. We can probably go to code.
That's lame that they had to change it from soul to account.
Dude, what? I should make a Twitter profile called Crypto Shang Tsung. And then whenever somebody gloriously messes up with this implementation here, I could tweet it and I'll be like,
4973 is the one we want. We're in the EIP's repo.
I wonder if, like, in legal terms, you can't, like, bind things to a soul. Because, like, what in legal terms is a soul?
A soul is any person inside of a moving vehicle.
Okay.
Yeah.
I thought that's only for
Technical
airplanes.
definition.
Nope,
Like-
it's for all moving vehicles.
It's pretty straightforward, right? It's an NFT, a type of like a non-fungible token that is also not transferable. Some people call them NTTs, meaning that my preferred name for it is a badge. And there's a lot of implications that can come up with something like this. Like they're very useful for various things. It allows you to show a specific criteria or tag or categorization of a given account. Say if you belong to a specific lifelong membership or you want to give a specific feature to a certain set of accounts, you can give it a non-transferable token. So that way, it can't be gamed. Like the ownership or access that token gives you can't be gamed to move around. But at the same time, like, what if I can send somebody a token that they can't move out of their account? Like, I don't know, an NFT that links to a picture of child pornography. That tends to be the canonical like standard of this is a bad idea, right? I can give somebody something they don't want that they can't get rid of. That's the main thing people are worried about when they complain about non-transferable NFTs or soul-bound tokens, because that's the only way you can actually say that word.
It's a digital STD, bro.
If you can get rid of STDs, man.
Not all of them.
You know what's
Some of 'em.
interesting? Like this is on Ethereum, but there are other L1s, Algorand, for example, that you actually can't airdrop. You can't like essentially send tokens to an account without getting that account's permission. So like I'm curious which way will be preferred by the market. Like protocols where you get to choose, or protocols where kind of you can have like STD like, dynamics.
As long as they can be revoked, it doesn't matter.
Okay.
Like if me as an individual can remove it,
Yeah.
if I own the account, it's
Yeah.
my account, I should be able to remove things.
Yeah.
Then that would make sense. I just can't transfer it to another account. So like in my opinion, if you have these types of things, it's non-transferable, but that doesn't mean removable.
But it costs to do that remove action.
I mean, that's subject to the smart contract, depending upon what the use case is, because there's a bunch of different use cases for this type of stuff. A problem with NFTs today is that if you grant access or permission or voting or some type of utility associated with the ownership of the token, its potential, depending upon, let's just take for example, like voting. Let me remove this thing because I'm not long sharing it. Say like I want to release a set of NFTs that the owners get to vote on specific subjects. I can then cast for a vote. And if I don't set that up correctly, if I'm not really, really careful about things, then someone could vote and then transfer the NFT, and then that new person could vote as well. And so you can have different types of games based on how the interaction is set up, based on moving the NFT around the interaction to kind of play with what you expect. And in some cases, that's good. Regular NFTs are good for that. Like software licenses could be really good for this. Like, I don't want to, like, I only want to use this software for a specific amount of time. So I basically buy an NFT off the market, use the software for the particular time I need it, and then sell it to the market when I'm done. So I don't have to pay for, I can have like interesting dynamics and like how I use specific types of software that requires licenses or whatever. Right.
Yep.
And
yeah,
go ahead.
No. I was just thinking, y'all go, keep going.
Like that's the general idea in my opinion. And so when I think about badges, I think about a lot of really cool things from a social perspective that you can start to do. Like popes are a good example, right? Proof of attendance protocols. Like when you go places, you have these, you can get these things called POAPs or popes, or I don't know how people call them. But it stands for proof of attendance protocol, where you basically have an indicator or like a real set of proof that you were at an event. And then you can do a bunch of cool things after that. Say, for instance, like I wanted to reach out to all the people that were at my event that's registered to claim one of these things. I now have like access to those people, and I can either give them additional benefits for participating in an event or reach out to them for sponsorships, for marketing, or whatever, right? Like there's a bunch of things that I can do based on understanding who was at where. And then if you look at it from like a nefarious point of view, I can do the same thing. If you have badges that are indications of somebody being something that they can't move, I now have a really good way to surveil a group of people based on a specific activity that I care about. So
I
like
guess going
there's
back
a
to
lot of
my
back and
question
forth on that type of
originally,
thing.
I like the
it's like
idea of a badge. Just depends on the use case. And the use case has to be found. I mean, I think it
do
could
you
get
guys like the
dangerous.
dynamic of people being able to like pin badges on you though? Like that's Ethereum in my mind. Like
Well, it should be opt-in, right? That's the thing.
that's what I'm
You
saying.
should ask or claim for
That's
the
what I'm
badge
saying.
yourself.
Like on in the protocol level of like Algorand, you can opt in. You get that choice. But in Ethereum, you don't get that choice. Can you?
Maybe. I mean, it
Okay.
depends if it's revocable or not. If
Okay.
someone gives it to you and you
So
revoke it, it's fine.
I
But
like the
like,
concept of a badge, though. That's a
But the
really
soul
good thing.
it makes more
boundness of
sense.
like a pope, right? So like when you say badge,
Soulbound makes it so
that's what I'm saying.
permanent. It's
Yeah.
Your soul now
so
is
bound.
bound. Like a badge makes sense. And what I was thinking is like, I'm thinking of everybody who has a badge. And it's like, do they
You can
recycle those
remove it.
badge numbers? Like, yeah, that's what I was thinking. Is like a sheriff is just a sheriff. Like, take the sheriff badge off, give it to the dude who wanted to be sheriff next. But like police badges, there's a number. There's usually a number and a name. When they get rid of the name, do they keep the number and just give the number to the next? They have to do that, right? That's what makes, in my mind, that's what makes sense, right? And then like, hey, we got 25,000 badges out there. Time to get
Your
more
social
money from the
security
Yeah,
number
government.
but
is
We need
that's
to.
like
We need
a
to.
relic of physical media. Like you can do interesting
Yeah,
things with minting digital scarcity, so they don't have that same type of problem in terms
I
of
don't.
like how do you reuse.
I'm just trying to make sure that if we're putting names on things, we try and be better than we've been in the past with crypto. Like the idea of a wallet. Like we know now that that is a silly, silly word for how you're actually using this thing and what it
People
actually
still
does.
argue for it. They still argue for it for some reason.
No one keeps their keys in their wallet unless they have nothing but card keys.
Nobody keeps car keys in their wallet.
No, like cards, like little
Oh,
cards
key
that get
cards.
you into things.
Key cards. Got it.
Key cards. There we
That's
go.
a
Card key card. My bad
card
on that one.
keys.
Just
Just because this is on the top of my head and I don't want to forget about it. Another example of usefulness or improper use of NFTs for credentials is like Securium has this program where like if you pass the class, you potentially you get NFTs as like a hey, I passed the class. Here's a moniker of saying that I passed. Like, and that then becomes an attestation of a certain threshold of knowledge. Like if I have this thing, then it shows that I've gone through a specific amount of things that indicate that I'm knowledgeable in this area and I may be
yeah,
useful for being hired as an auditor. You
that's a
cannot
good
pass
use
those
case.
things around. You can't sell that. There's no market for that. That's work, right? You should not be able to sell the badge that says you've done a specific amount of
Yeah.
knowledge work,
No.
where
Are
you're
we saying
capable of a specific amount of
are we
knowledge work.
saying when you say badge, Corey, do you mean
I
a
mean, an account
soulbound
token.
badge or just like a badge?
I mean a non-transferable token is what I mean.
Okay. You know, it'd be
So
interesting. Deterioratable or I don't know. That's not the word. Basically badges that
diminishing,
deteriorate. Well, what I'm getting at is like licenses get
vaporization,
renewed, right? In the real
eradication.
world,
I mean, Unlock Protocol
licenses.
does that.
Yeah.
They have time-based tokens that you can't. You know what I mean? Like Julian already does these things.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, he might actually be on this standard. To be honest, it's look. See if I can find the contributors to this thing. He's not on this one, but I would venture a guess that he has very strong opinions on these things
I have a
and
question.
experience in like trying to deal with some of the issues that I've just mentioned about
Yeah.
NFTs.
I don't mean software licenses. I mean professional licenses. Like
Yeah,
for instance, as an engineer, you go through
certifications.
right. You get your maybe EIT and then you get your PE for a physician, you get MD and then you
Isn't there a GE
sit
too?
for
General engineering.
I've never seen that one.
Okay.
But maybe it exists. There are a lot of different credentials out there for a lot of different professionals. It'd just be interesting that I didn't know that there exists a way for them to like essentially deteriorate the credential so that they actually have to re-up it every few years, right? Because your knowledge is not always there. It needs to be refreshed. You need to prove that you have not forgotten all of the information that you at one point learned, right?
The FE Fundamentals of Engineering exam. What's
You
Right,
your?
stop
that's a
listening to you.
stepping
So look that
stone.
up.
I
Huh?
was just, no, I'm just trying to remember because I was studying for it for so long, just to not study for it anymore. I was wondering if I still remembered.
Wait, why were you studying for that?
I started out in mechanical engineering. That's just
Oh, okay.
right.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Dynamics.
math. Pure
Dynamics
math.
2 pretty much eradicated my soul. So I was like, yeah, I'm not gonna make it. I'm not gonna make it. And
Were
this
we
is
taking
mechanical
classes
engineering.
together after you had changed that or before?
I think before.
Because like a first class I think we took together was Cal 2.
Cal 2 and then Cal 3.
Did
But
we have linear algebra together? I don't think we did.
no, we didn't. We did not.
Okay.
My linear. I'm not gonna tell that story. The story's gonna get me in trouble. It's 2022. All right, so now I'm going to different things. I don't know. Soulbound token seems like a good idea for certain things, but at the end of the day, I have to like meter crypto enthusiasm sometimes with, is this a solution in search of a problem, when how does it look like to the outside world? And maybe these are questions that are too soon to be asked. But um what's the difference between having a soulbound token and a Facebook account? Facebook already logs everything I do everywhere. Obviously, I know the long-term negative effects of that. And I know that Facebook keeping all this data on me is probably not good for me in the long run. It's only good for Facebook, not good for me. But that architecture already exists. So what are we actually inventing?
Oh, it's more about a standard of use for an asset on a blockchain,
Oh, okay. So it's just like
right? Like
how
these things,
we
like people have used versions of these things. We're talking about building a standard so that you can build infrastructure around it. Like the only reason why ERC20s blew up and NFTs blew up is because a standard exists around them, which allowed you to transfer them in a secure way. Because I could build a decentralized exchange or an exchange that understood how to interoperate between multiple different platforms because it all conformed to a given standard.
Mm. So is a
Right.
lot of what crypto needs to be doing just taking how the internet currently operates and just rebuilding it for a blockchain environment?
In some ways,
Yeah.
like if you think about digital assets, like what is a digital asset? It's like in the most general way.
Wait, don't hold on, D. To answer your question more directly, have you read like white papers of like, let's say, like when you're talking about Facebook implementation in Web3, have you looked at some of the papers that are aiming or that had aimed to do that?
Come again. I lost you on the last second of that.
So to answer your question more directly, right, which
Yes.
is are Web3 uh organizations just recreating Web2 ideas? And on that, have you read some of like the white papers of projects who aimed to do that and what the tech stack changes to?
Hmm.
Because that would answer your question if you
So
have read.
your answer to my question was a question. I would, to the first
Right.
part, I would say that I think that yes, a lot of it is just recreating the wheel. But
Sure.
my perspective of recreating the wheel is that is definitely not a bad thing. I think it's a great thing. If we never recreated the wheel, then we'd have a bunch of cars rolling around on
Sure.
fucking
Sure.
stone discs, right? Like
Yeah.
you obviously have to recreate things.
So the
Now,
second part answers your actual question. If you say, yes, I've read white papers of organizations who are creating Web3 versions of Web2, that answers your question, I think.
okay, I think it does.
I think it's a lot about we have a new
I do think.
Like, have
paradigm
you,
in
like,
terms of an operational environment.
yes, but can I answer, like, I can throw up a visual, right? I'm thinking of a diagram that I can show you, D, and then you can tell me if you've seen this, and then I'll search for it real quick.
Excuse me, audience. I had to
Okay.
blow my nose.
Does that not make sense though? I feel like this is kind of obvious why people were recreating things on the
It is
Web3
obvious.
space. It's because
Yeah.
we know that these things already exist. It's just there's a new environment in which you can operate in that's drastically different. And it requires us to rebuild it in this environment to see like how the social dynamics of that thing work here. That's why DeFi is even a thing.
I get it. I get it. I'm okay with it.
But like at the same time, some of that stuff isn't appropriate here. Or like it's not, who cares if it exists? It will exist because someone's going to try it. We can't stop them because it's permissionless. but it's not necessarily the best thing to be using in an environment like this. Now, I think badges or soulbound tokens or non-transferable tokens or whatever you want to call them has some legit use cases for access control and like attestation of a specific thing. But it also has negative consequences too if you don't have properties like revocability.
It's got to be new and it's got to be catchy, petty. We can't do badges because badges exist in they exist in fucking Discord and Facebook Messenger and all
right. And soulbound. Then
we
like
can't
people
call
are
them
going to fucking think about
soulbound
it
tokens
because they think it's
people
some
are gonna be
stupid game
like,
thing.
they're gonna be like, wait a second, I don't want anything to be bound to my soul. Do I have a soul? I'm agnostic.
The problem is the issue here is that there doesn't need to be a name for the end user, right? The end user, you don't have to use soulbound or NTTs or whatever. Like if you're building an application that leverages this standard, call it whatever the fuck you want, as long as the end user understands what it means for that particular feature. It's just this is the standard we've come up with, and it needs a name. But like as if you're building a product and you implement this thing, call it whatever you want. Doesn't matter. As long as the end user can understand what the whole purpose is.
Lock token, LT. Bow.
Lock token.
It's a lock token. That's
lock it up.
There's nothing that uses locks.
Lock it up.
Unlock. Lock it up.
Unlock specifically uses locks. That's what they call them.
Fuck. It's got to be a catchy name. It's got to be marketable. How did NFTs catch fire? That's so random. There's people walking up to a rapper right now.
I don't know, dude. Rappers are talking about them. And it's such an engineering name.
I want to hear.
If it was if the acronym didn't roll off your tongue, it wouldn't have caught on.
Yeah, NFT.
Nifty.
I know one thing. I want to hear Fetty Wap try and sell me his NFT. I want to tell him no to his face, but I do want to hear. I don't want to hear him like, you know what I'm saying? I got this NFT project dropping soon. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, wait, pause. Like, stop.
We got to go back to those. We got to go back to those conferences that have people like that.
Boosie barbecue sauce.
Boosie potato chips.
I'm putting Boosie shoes on the blockchain, y'all. I was like, wait a second. He doesn't know what he's saying. We're just gonna let it happen.
Every single person around him was like, yeah. And it was the dude behind the tree was just like every single person around him was just like, yeah, son, we're doing this.
My favorite part of that interview, and I'll stop with the nostalgia audience, is when we asked him our question in 10 words or less, can you describe blockchain? His PR guy leans over and whispers in his ear, he's like, say decentralized, say privacy, say and I was like, what? What? Yeah. No, that's not
say it.
Just say the words. Anyways.
And for those that don't know, what episode was that?
I don't know.
Interviewed.
I don't like to refer to that. It's not a highlight of our podcasting career interviewing.
No, it is though, because that's the kind of podcast we have. We've got to do that. That was Lil B. Boozy Badass. Episode 185 was Boozy Badass. At the same time, we had Hunter Pendergrass there too, which was
legit.
He was for those that don't know, he had a bunch of things before this, but he was the him and his partner were the advisors for the crypto advisors for all of Silicon Valley, the show.
That's cool.
Did you know that?
Mm-mm.
Yeah. So they did something well with their time.
I did not know that. You're talking about those two dudes with that specific in that same episode?
Yeah, Hunter and we did both interviews. We did an interview with Hunter and Nick, who were the advisors for Silicon Valley.
Really?
The crypto aspects of Silicon Valley. And then Boozy Badass was directly after it. So I interviewed those two, and it was an ultra technical, ultra meta interview on Web3. And then you and Shello interviewed Boozy because he didn't have nothing, nothing to do with me. And it was fucking awesome. It was the best back-to-back interview you could ever hope for this show.
Wait, so those two dudes are responsible for Solana?
No, what are you talking about,
guys? Wait, How? What do you mean when you say Silicon Valley
The
Advisory?
show, the show Silicon Valley.
The TV series.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah, the show. They were the advisors for the show. So that, like
Okay.
when they talked about crypto in the show, it made sense.
Okay, that makes sense now.
I
'Cause
think
was
I'm almost 100% positive that's the case.
my mind was going just is sprinting towards Conspiracy Island. I was like, what, how? All right, let's reel it in. So that's enough about soulbound tokens. I mentioned something in the Slack today I forgot to put my Negro Damas cap on before I said it, but I think it's very obvious at this point that USDC is like lobbying to try and be the digital legal tender for the United States. I mean, I don't know. Is it not obvious? Like, the treasure trove of money that they're sitting on is absurd. The parties involved are so high level.
Well, let's go through it. Why? To walk us through these points you think are so obvious.
I was asking,
So
but
USDC's volume, I'm pretty sure just flipped tether, right? Which has to be by design. There's no way it's not. Most recently, it has. With the fallout of all of this stablecoin stuff, is that now USDC is on top. So, with that being said, okay, now you got USDC on top. You got all the mining happening in the US now. Not all, but the majority of it. Proof of work that is happening in the US. We've got Coinbase, which makes like $3 billion in profit a month. And obviously is going to volunteer to give the government whatever information the government wants so they can keep making that profit. Yeah, and the Federal Reserve is no mystery. It's not a government entity. It's like 4 private banks that basically keep all of the reserves of the U.S. money, right? The Federal Reserve is a private thing. It's weird. It's this weird relationship between the U.S. government and the Federal Reserve. So Coinbase could. There's no law. There's no rule saying that it couldn't be added to the Federal Reserve. But I mean, when you've got this much USDC out there, and you've got pockets that deep of USDC, then how is that not a reserve?
I mean, when you have a stable coin that's pegged to a real physical asset, the confidence in the stability of that coin is directly tied to the confidence of the reserve, like where that money is stored, how that money is stored, the ability to check that money is stored appropriately and audit it, and so on and so forth. I would argue that it's easier to have higher confidence in USDC than USDT by a long shot.
Okay, so let's peel another layer off. USDC is a partner stablecoin between Coinbase, Circle. Those are 2 names I know off the top of my head, but there's a lot of money in that war chest to peg USDC to USD. Now, Circle, that nobody really knows, was the largest Bitcoin exchange on the planet for many, 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 many years. Like, they never talked about it. They didn't make a big deal about it. I remember, if you remember the Circle app, Corey.
Yeah.
So
they weren't the largest exchange. They bought Poloniex.
Yeah, with their super big, large exchange money. They went over to Poloniex and were like, hey, man, we're just going to give you guys a pile of money to fuck off. And they were like, sure. It's just been us in our garage any fucking way. Crypto, am I right? And then they fucking jogged off stage and they took their big pile of money. And now Circle becomes the super, super big, largest exchange of Bitcoin. And now they're larger than Bitcoin exchange. They bought Poloniex because Poloniex was the largest Ether exchange in this hemisphere. So they were like, obvious, I'm taking that route.
You're saying that with such like confidence. Is this true?
Yeah, because at that time I was trading Ether for Bitcoin, and Poloniex had all the money. That's where I traded. Poloniex.
So this is from you on the exchange in Poloniex, looking at liquidity, and then
this is from me. Yeah,
but you didn't trade on any other exchanges, or you did, and this is just like anecdotally.
I traded on not Binance, the one that's just the B, Bitstamp. And there was another one overseas, and then OKCoin, and then there
it would be worth doing a comparative study of like these things. Like I'm not saying any of this stuff is true.
Yes.
Like I don't know.
These are
if it's-
defects. So if you want to,
Yeah,
you
okay.
can
These are defects.
fact
Defects
check
is
me if you
pretty
want
good.
to. Fact check
These
me if
are
you want.
de facto
This is
facts.
Actually,
hold
I
up.
hope so. If someone fact checks any of this, let's give a bounty out for what?
50
$50?
bucks. Yeah, 50
Nice.
bucks.
Nice.
50 bucks coming out of us to you.
With reasonable fact checking of any of the dumb shit we're saying about these two stable coins.
Dumb shit.
So here, what are the facts that need to be? What are the defacts that
First
need
come, first serve. This is not for everybody that does fact checking.
Yeah. So what do we got here? We got Circle being the largest Bitcoin exchange. That was the thing I threw out there. That's
So you're
pretty-
trying to justify that USDC has more legitimacy and is basically. So remember what I
Oh,
punched in
I'm not
Avalanche?
saying. I'm not saying.
Bro,
legit.
there's a $1 million bounty out on anyone who can provide a reasonable audit of Tether's reserves.
Yeah, yeah.
I remember some creepy shit happened. Like sometimes you just stay out of stuff. When we went to Mexico and we were at DevCon, and this dude, I was just chilling because nobody really, people listen to Ethereum podcasts. They didn't listen to the Bitcoin podcast. It was started those lines in the sand had already started being drawn back then. And so I'm just chilling, like listening to conversation. And this guy, I could tell he was kind of full of shit. Maybe he wasn't. But he starts talking to this other guy in a suit, and he's like, "Bro, I need to
I
tell
remember watching you listen to this conversation from across the room.
yeah, I was like, I need to tell you about Tether. And I was like, my ear like peaks up, and I'm just like, I lean back and listen. And then I lean back too far, and he just instantaneously stopped talking and grabbed the guy in the suit and then walked to like a quiet corner. And I was like, that was fucking sketch. Now, that happened to me. That doesn't mean anything. I don't think there's any large conspiracy going on with Tether that can be proved, anyways, at this point. So I think that's why there's $1 million bounty. But what I'm saying is my facts that need to be checked. Circle being the largest Bitcoin exchange, check. Circle did buy Poloniex. That's no mystery. Check. Circle is behind USDC. They're the main initiator of the origination of USDC.
I mean, that's true. The last two things that you just said are true.
Right. The first thing is the big exchange that they kept on the low. Right. So let me see if I can find some articles to defend my defact. But nevertheless,
fact checking. I'm not paying you $50.
and the dude that's behind Circle is fucking. He was super rich before any of this. He's one of those dudes who's like, money means no things. I just want to do stuff. Like, nah, he's super rich and smart, and he just doesn't care. Right. So he's like, on to the next thing. I guess I'll join the Federal Reserve this week. Like so yes, it's not bombastic. Yes, it's a ridiculous claim. But I do think that USDC is going to be that legal tender stamp. I don't know what prevents it from being a legal tender stamp other than people signing paper.
That was kind of what Libra's whole goal was, I think, was to try and make themselves create some type of digital currency that was amenable to such a thing, based on how they were doing like the baskets of entities that were responsible for keeping it stable. It looks a lot like how you would build a digital currency for a government, but done in a private manner. But if we look at how a lot of things are done in terms of the control of information and money within the United States, it looks a lot like that.
If we know how the West works, the West likes us versus them. There's no us, and let's figure it out. There is us and there is them. USDC is us money. Bitcoin, Ethereum, Avalanche, those things, that's them money. And it's kind of as simple as that. I mean, maybe that's not simple. Maybe that's really complex and convoluted, but
It's got some hot takes from Andy coming at us. Hot take for those who are not watching the show: soulbound tokens are a terrible name for anything in crypto, and for looking for mass adoption.
Andy knows what's up. We're not soulbound. The hell is
I'm looking
that?
into Jeremy Allaire.
Mortal
Man,
Kombat.
this dude is like, he's got some roots.
Yeah, dude. Jeremy Allaire is a boss, and Circle was a great wallet at that time. I the amount of money I sent to my students using the Circle app is I wish I could find them, get my money back.
What I mean
But
is like
but
he was CTO at Macromedia and he was involved in developing Adobe Flash.
mm,
Like he
I mean, yeah, but like,
collaborated with Noam Chomsky. He like this dude's like connected AF.
mhm.
Like he's smart and he's connected.
is
Telling
that
you,
good?
man.
Is that good for the ecosystem? Is that what you want?
Hey, that's but to take the words out of your mouth, Corey. I mean, if it does more good than it does bad,
Well, what's good? It's in my opinion, that's a lot of recreation of the exact same thing we already have, and
I
just
know,
calling, slapping a new sticker on it.
but that's what we do. That's all humans ever do. They're like,
No, it's not.
when
That's what
something's
humans follow. That's what's easiest to follow because it's most recognizable and what you're used to. But the whole point we built this shit in the first place is because what we built isn't very good and doesn't work for us.
I think that most times an invention is like a rehashing of something before. I think these monumentally life altering, civilization altering inventions are different, but I think most things are just iterations. That's my
Machine learning, iteration on things.
Iteration on humanity.
I don't
LOL.
really know. The only thing I know about
Quantum
machine
computing,
learning
iteration
is
on
that
things.
it's a bunch of
Being able to talk to people across the globe instantaneously. Iteration on things.
I'm saying most things, not all things.
Yeah, but we're talking about things that aren't that.
Okay, all right, well, fair enough.
So it's like so what I'm
Fair enough.
getting is that
Good point.
iteration is like little bit, but like the way that Corey's talking about things, these are huge giant leaps for mankind.
The way in which we've done things in terms like the way technology has moved and the impact it has had on the fabric of society and how humans do both business and like
But okay,
cultural differences is
you're right.
massive,
You're not
massively
wrong.
different.
But
Like
if
we
we're
are
talking about
teleporting right now. Like we are literally like having a conversation with video. Like
And then it's
we
being
are
pushed live to a bunch of
right,
people.
that's
right.
true. I mean, it's some mind-boggling shit. I
Like
remember
this
when,
is magic. This is
like
magic.
when,
If you reverse time like 50 years, this is magic. If you reverse time like 1,000 years, we're gods.
yeah, that's
But
true.
I get the kind of thing you're talking about is like there's a level of circular logic happening
Yeah,
in terms of some aspects of a lot of these things, like, you know, centralization versus decentralization, aggregation versus isolation. Like,
I will always and forever consider money a technology.
that's because it is. That's
So that being said, crypto is just an iteration.
okay,
So
sure.
it's
That's
just like
I'm
it's
not,
just
I'm
like
not gonna argue with that. That's fine.
Oh, that was stupid.
it's like you're taking a whole field like of like a shit ton of deep math and you're just saying, "Oh yeah, hold my beer. I could have done that." Like,
me.
you know what I mean?
No, no, I
No,
can't.
it's
No, not at all. No, not at all.
like
I
it's
would.
not baby D. Like
I
it's
would
just
call it a generalization of money than an iteration. It's an expansion of what money is, in my opinion, because it's crypto or blockchains or Web3 does more, drastically more than what we previously considered money or value or
Value.
the quantification and exchange of value.
I
And
told
that's bled over in a lot of ways to like what we currently do and like our social lives. And we're bleeding the lines between these things. And so it's not an iteration. It's like you've discovered something larger in which our previous models don't accurately describe.
this is what I was telling Corey and telling you, right? Is the fact that you're going to be able, like an emergent property of iterating on blockchain technology and digital tokens that can basically accrue value in whatever value means to anybody, is going to be the fact that you can create quantifiable numbers on a screen that represent what like things that are like love, like the intangibles of a business. You'll be able to get those.
And straight to
That's
love.
Yeah.
Getting dystopian in this bitch.
Yeah, seriously though. Like if you look at Disney, like this is what I'm thinking. Like if you look at Disney, let's say that they're worth, say, I don't know, some or say the revenue is like, I don't know, what's the revenue of
I'm about to
Disney,
Google that. That's probably a lot.
right? So they have a certain like market cap for Disney. And there's also
$67.4 billion in
right.
revenue.
So now look up Disney's intangibles. Look at how much money is in that. Just query that.
Disney's intangibles.
Yeah.
Just
You
The
just
value of
Google that?
Disney's do value of Disney's intangibles, and it's like 10 to 20 billion dollars. So they're
you're like,
losing
what's his
money.
face on Joe Rogan? Look that
Yeah.
up. Value of Disney's intangibles.
No, but seriously,
Oh,
like
that's a
that,
thing?
that's what
Disney's
I'm saying
goodwill
though.
and
That's what I'm
intangible
saying.
assets.
So an emergent property
What
of
the
crypto, you
hell?
heard it here, folks, first. That will be a thing. That's what DAOs will create. I don't know
Yeah,
whether
I
people
agree with that.
realize
I
that
mean,
or
I've
not.
said that in a manner of ways a couple different times in terms of like we're learning new ways of quantifying things we couldn't quantify beforehand.
Right, but that isn't hit where like I can show you a number like
Yeah.
Disney's worth 60 something billion. Their intangibles are worth 20 billion. You're going to be able to capture that 20 billion in tokens. That's what crypto will do because you know are no longer bound to dollars and creating things within fixed systems where you can't create law and legislation fast enough to capture things and you can't create real to virtual representations of these things fast enough in a way that software can be written and recycled and thrown away so that you can attempt to capture that, right? This kind of goes back to long time ago, well, not that long ago, but the health app that I would like to create to track fitness so that you can reduce premiums of insurances for certain individuals. You can have more customized products.
Don't
Like
get too
this is something
popular.
that's
They will take your ass out.
this is something that's been worked on, right? So
Yeah,
it's
but like,
like,
all right. So, do you think that should be a stronger narrative, or like,
I didn't
like
even
I don't.
realize
I feel like what you just said is something that
is awesome.
a
I
few
never,
people understand is incredibly important in understanding what's valuable about this stuff. But like,
yeah.
why don't people understand that? Like,
I want to
why?
pay
Why is there?
$30 for my monthly healthcare premiums because I don't want to pay $250 or $280. That's
Look,
expensive, and I'm pretty fucking healthy. Like
I
I don't.
personally have. Go ahead. Go ahead.
No. I mean that's my point.
I've seen hundreds of balance sheets now at this point. Practice balance sheets, real balance sheets that have real effects to how you change them. And I've never seen intangible assets on a balance sheet. So I guess I'm still a super rookie in the
You
game.
noob. You're a noob, dude.
Super
You're in the
rookie.
minor leagues.
So
You better
how do
step
you
up.
even value an intangible asset? Like, is
Bro,
that like was that the value of the love they put in the world? Like, how does that
Okay,
make any
so
sense, dude?
check this out. Check this out. It like
I'm
when I tell
googling
you
this
like
shit.
everything's connected, this is what I'm thinking in my brain, right? For instance, some people have parents, like both parents. They're lucky to have both parents, a mom and a dad, right? Let's say you're the child of both of these parents working, right? Let's say your parents are influenced by Western culture such that you know the father is for the prototypical breadwinner in the family, right? The mother kind of stays home, kind of does you know maybe works part-time, does what's from a sociological standpoint known as like a second shift, I think is the phrase, right? So there is an amount of value that the woman creates in terms of holding the family together that is not captured in terms of financial value, but is ultimately important to the success of the nuclear family as a whole, right? That same dynamic is being programmatically defined and captured and will be an emergent property of the value that each individual has as they exist in any given ecosystem.
I'm not
So
sure
that,
that's. I see what you're doing with that analogy. I think there's a better
yeah,
analogy there that people can latch onto.
yeah, I'm trying. I'm trying.
Yeah, I get that because like if you look at the total pie of quote unquote value for a nucleated family,
Sure.
the aspect of what the mother is doing in terms of holding it together isn't necessarily being captured very well,
Right.
right? Or
Right.
like viewed upon from an outside perspective.
Right.
But if you like try to use that same narrative for like content curation within a community.
Andy tokenized parenting, spank to earn.
Yeah, tokenized parenting, spanked earn. Like the amount of work that goes into upvoting and downvoting in a subreddit for a given like high value community, like high value subreddit, isn't being captured by any type of like value. Like the amount, the difficulty it is to like surface quality content within a given community is right now up to an algorithm for most platforms. And it's clear that there's a lot of value in the ability of a given algorithm to do that. Otherwise, you don't have the engagement you'd like to do to keep people there. So crypto gives you ability to incentivize people to surface quality content within a given context and potentially pay them out, thereby relieving your like the need to rely on an algorithm to do it for them that may have some bias that they have no say over. And it gives people a way of living that, you know, that doesn't require them to have any special skill other than identifying good content.
I've seen that fail though so many times, right?
Sure. I'm not saying it's like that's, it's just that it's an easy, like, it's currently we have no way of quantifying value of content curation because algorithms do it for us because humans
Sure.
don't have a good reason to do it.
Right. They're optimizing for like attention
Crypto
seeking.
gives you an avenue to explore ways in which you can recapture that back.
Sure. I don't know if that's like, I don't know what narrative.
I've been saying the word narrative a lot today, and I'm a little upset about it.
I mean, that's an okay narrative, but it's not like digestible to like who the fuck cares?
Yeah.
The communities, because the you know, like finding good content and not feel like you're being sold stuff is an important part of being a part of community.
I agree. I'm being D right now is like the dude on the street, like why the fuck does he care? Like he's not gonna really do like is he gonna do this?
When he scrolls through a social media app, you want to find good shit quickly.
I think that we can no longer. It's funny. Is like I had that epiphany off. You know, this when we weren't recording, and I was like, I'm not too sure caring about the GPP even matters. Like that's like I had a moment.
No, like I don't know. At this point, probably not, because the tech isn't there to like realistically give him something that he cares about, or
like
her,
ever,
or whatever.
Like if you're talking about things that we talk about, our subject matter, and kind of our opinions and our line of thinking, does the GPP, like for example, let's like
there's not
Elon is spending a good amount of money to make sure everybody's thinking about Elon all the time. All right. If he's not doing it, his marketing company is, and they're doing a good job. Nevertheless, when this man makes moves, he doesn't care that the average Joe can barely pay for a gallon of, like a half a tank of gas right now while he's selling $90,000 electric vehicles. He's like, hey, man, if you can't get on the plane, you can't get on the plane. I don't know what to tell you. You can't get on the train. You can't get on the train. You got a ticket. Like, he's not caring. Like, he doesn't care. Like, he has said, hey, I'm trying to make these electric cars less expensive. 30 grand is about as good as it gets. You don't got 30 grand, you can't get an electric car. Sorry. Figure your life out. Like, that's pretty much what he's saying, dude. Is he saying anything different? And everybody else is trying to be like, hey, we're the working man's electric truck. Yeah, it's $75,000, but you could do that because you're a working man. And
Wait,
like,
how do you get that? How do you get that idea though? That's really funny. But like what gives you that impression that he doesn't want like, you know, average Joe buying Teslas?
Because that's the price. They're priced out.
Really? They're priced out. They can't get it. You know who your clientele is. They can't get that. You don't sell to them. You don't sell yachts to somebody who can.
It may be getting to the point now where it's getting kind of there. But if you look at like early Teslas,
yeah, like the cheapest Tesla is like
that's part of
grand.
Growing a business is catering to a smaller audience until the tech is more commoditized to allow for you to have a profitable business that can cater to a larger audience.
Yeah, but
you know what's weird though, to that point, like to push back against that point a little bit. In America, it's that way, but abroad in China, I think market penetration of Tesla is actually pretty good among EV manufacturers.
Yeah, but they're also sitting on ass loads of cash in China right now.
The average Joe, no. If you look at the average Joe wages in US dollars, I believe like a few years ago I looked this up. It was like like high 30, low 40,000 a year for an individual, versus in America it's roughly like, based on inflation, maybe mid to upper 50s, 60, low 60s, something like that, right? So there's still a discrepancy of about, let's say, 20%.
If your yearly income is 30 or 40 grand, what are you going to live on a
Let's see.
curb
As
for
of
a year?
this year, the average salary, we'll go median.
Yeah, median works.
Median salary in China is 4,800 per month. The
Yeah,
average
so
salary in China is 4,500 per month.
yeah, see, so it's like
That's
it's
okay.
about 50K plus or minus. So that's inflation adjusted. Now, if you go a few years back, they were making like mid 40s, mid to upper 40s. Now they're making, upper 40s to low 50s probably. But the idea is that in China, when you buy something, you don't actually buy it outright. You actually just get a fat ass, like essentially loan for whatever it is, like those big purchases, a home or a car. Like their home mortgages are like 2 lifetime. It's impossible to pay, right? It's a joke in major
Yeah.
cities. So
Yeah.
like you know how like you have 30-year mortgages here in the US, like up to, right? You can have obviously smaller. There it's like 60-year mortgages. Like it's nuts. You'll never pay it off. Your children might have a chance though.
As of 2021, it looks like average salary United
Correct me on that
States
though. Check me on that.
is 51,000.
Hmm. Well, I guess I just say all that to say that when you're trying to push things forward, it's probably more effective to just do it to the people that are listening,
Yeah,
right?
I agree. I mean,
Because
you need to. Well, it depends on what you're doing, right? You need to know your audience and your capability to deliver to a specific audience. Like that's a lot of times startups mismatch their ability to grow because they've drastically misaligned that connection. They wanna broadcast to everyone, but they don't have the capability to broadcast to even a small number of people.
you want to say hi?
Something like that, right? And so like, yeah, know your audience and then do them like do them well. Make sure you provide a quality product to whatever you're building to them and do it well, and then find an avenue to grow. So that like that's that same book that Cello made us read a long time ago, which is like crossing the chasm. Yeah,
Chasm.
it's like
Chasm.
it outlined the actual like process of understanding your audience and then how you bridge the gap to each successively larger audience.
That was a good book. That was a good book. I should read that book again. But yeah, and right now, obviously, crypto is still talking to the people that want to listen. Like,
Well, you can that's kind of the I wouldn't say problem, maybe it is a problem in this industry where that's I think that's exacerbated in this industry is because we're involving the ability to invest into something to basically everyone. And historically speaking, you've seen outrageous gains. So you're pairing like what I would call a reasonably exponential technology. So like this is a novel technology that is new and exponential growth and potentially game changing to the landscape of society, paired with its money, investable to the average Joe in any amount that they want. And it has shown a history of ridiculous gains. And like that's just like a cesspool for like being taken advantage of and making shitty decisions. Because it moves so fast, it's so difficult to understand what's going on to make reasonable choices unless you spend an inordinate amount of time doing it. And because anyone can do it and anyone can participate in, like anyone can build something and then anyone can participate in it, and there's not a lot of regulation around it. You have things like pulse chain, like people building something,
Definitely.
marketing the shit out of it, and it not reasonably being anything worth of value.
You're gonna hurt. Joe's gonna get mad at you.
No, Joe agrees with him.
He agrees with them. He just understands it.
He's just waiting to ride the degen.
Jeez, man.
Like we've created because of like that's the double-edged sword of these principles that we have of like with inclusion and and access and things like that is if you allow people to do things, they will do it.
Mm-hmm.
And we're talking about money, or what's typically referred to as money, like generalization of value. If we go back to the earlier argument, like people are going to get taken advantage of. People are going to take advantage of other people. And because it's so inclusive and as a part of the principle set of how we build, like it's censorship resistance and inclusive, then people are allowed to do it because we haven't put in these stopgaps in the beginning to stop them or keep them from doing it.
Mm-hmm.
So like buckle up. Like if we're not telling people to be weary and it's high risk investment for a long period of time until like potentially forever,
when it's not a risky investment anymore, then it's
not
probably
going to have
not
these
that
returns.
great of an investment anymore. Like that's how the cookie crumbles. Like when it's no longer
but like
risky.
that's not the point. The point isn't an investment. It's just something you can do now. Like in my opinion, the point of all this stuff isn't so that we can allow people to invest in things and potentially make a shitload of money.
Mm-hmm. Man,
That's a side effect.
it's so weird because this transition of my like crypto existence is like, it feels like such a transitory, like it is mass adopted, but it's not really mass adopted. So it's like it's not
Mass adoption is how can I invest?
Yeah, and that's not ever going to be a mass adoption thing because getting people to invest in things is incredibly difficult. Like I know that.
Risky.
It's not just risky. Of course there's
No,
risk.
it's not
right?
risky, Corey. It's difficult.
It's difficult. Right? It's difficult because
I think it's risky too.
It is risky, but
Even the bet that we made,
literally
as people who are embedded in this industry, if they would have made, if people would have like followed our, like our portfolios and like where we're putting our money or what we're investing our time into, they would have been losing right now. And they'd be like, this is stupid if they did it at the wrong time.
If they did it at the wrong time. But like it's everything is risky. I mean, part of what even a government existing for is to convince the constituents to invest in shit. Like, hey man, we got these 5 things we got to put your money in.
CDs will give you 0.03% back.
You know what I'm saying? Like, we gotta put our money in this sewage system here, guys, and like, well, prove to me. I just take my shit and throw it in the woods. Yeah, but you can't do that, right? We gotta build the sewage system. We got, and you gotta talk people into investing. And then the risk is, what if it doesn't work? Okay, and then there's shit everywhere, right? So like, it's just everything's got its own risks involved, not just investing. I think risk is just weighing risk. By the way, shout out to whoever out there is making an insurance protocol for this stuff. Like, you're gonna be the world's first quadrillionaire,
or
No,
just completely bankrupt because you defaulted on everything because of the volatility.
They're
and the
really
difficulty in weighing risk.
They're really struggling with risk.
You're either gonna win big or win really.
Would you call it a risky business?
I would.
That?
I wish we had a sax. I wish we had a saxophone.
Too close.
Damn, we need a saxophone soundboard for risky. Well,
yeah, too bad you never got your Stream Decks set up.
Yeah. Now it's in
All right, let's wrap it up. We're at an hour.
Dusty. Hey, well, we're wrapping this stuff for you guys, so you can do some things. We're gonna do our things now.
I'm gonna do a shout out. Remember how you always used to ask me, do you have anything to shout out? I'm gonna shout out one thing.
Okay, I'm going to do this right now.
Shout out to Sand. Okay, you can do yours now.
Shout out to Sand?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, hey guys, today's show was brought to you by us. We do this. You can become a patron at patreon.com/the Bitcoin podcast. I hope you like this beat brought to you by Sammy Davis III. Join the Slack.
YouTube because of this?
No. This is the music they let us use. Look, it's down there. Look,
all
it
right.
says it's copy music.
Yeah, it's got to be good then. Okay, nice.
Yeah. So, what do we got going on here? Slack. Yeah, come join the Slack. TheBitcoinPodcast.com. Push the Slack button. Follow the instructions. If you can't do that, you can't hang out with us. We don't want to hang out with you. Like those are very simple instructions, and if you can't follow that, you can't get into the treehouse. Sorry, can't climb up here. All right.
Don't worry, it's going to change later.
All right. Well, we got this. Your podcast app. You're listening to us in a podcast app, most obviously. Give us a rating, so other people can listen to us too, and then you can have a whole group of friends. It can be you guys listening to our podcast, telling us how much you like it, and you all gave us 5 stars. That's how community works. All right.
Community.
Shout out to Coinbase. We are not brought to you by Coinbase. Coinbase wouldn't touch us with a 20-foot pole.
Why are we shouting them out?
I don't know. It's on there. I'm just clicking things at this point. Shout out to what else we got here? Oh, here's some things. Doja Cat. Yep. Ant-Man. All right. New Black Widow. Yeezy. This one's for Corey. Shout out to Matt Damon.
Matt Damon.
Shout out to both Thors. And shout out to Long Neck and Wide Smile, Zoe Saldana. Shout out to you, bro. All right.
Hit him with the outro, bro.
Play the outro.